Thank you so much, and a big thank you to David for those really interesting insights. I am, for anyone who knows me, a self-professed data nerd, and there's just nothing more exciting than seeing the power of tourism quantified in those headlines and really to see how it's impacting our local economies. But we are now going to talk a little bit about what's behind those numbers and what really makes the tourism industry go. And we are here with two of the region's most dynamic tourism leaders. Let's talk a little bit about success and measuring success. So traditionally, success has been measured by total arrivals and total revenue of tourism. But the ASEAN region is moving a little bit more towards a value-led growth model. So what does that mean in terms of how we measure and how we define success, particularly thinking about the next 10 years or so? And what does inclusive and sustainable tourism look like in practice? So let's go first to Choon Phong.
Thank you, Jessie. So clearly, just looking at numbers, whether you are talking about the number of tourists or the revenue figure, is not going to be good enough. We need to at least measure in three other things. One is whether the local community has benefited directly from this growth in tourism. Has there been increase in employment opportunity? Is there better income for the local community? Are they able to better access the international markets for their products, services? And are they able to better access travel from their community to other parts of the world? I think those are also important parameters to measure. The second part is really about the impact of tourism on the local communities, culture, heritage, natural resources. Because while we grow the tourism to a particular destination, we do want to make sure that the place remain attractive in the long run for other tourists to come. I mean, you look at some of the habitat destructions as a result of over-tourism and not putting enough safeguard, such as destruction of coral reef, for example. The third part, it's really about carbon footprint. We got to make sure that as we grow tourism, that it is sustainable from the carbon emission perspective. So for an airlines, for example, we are very conscious about how we can reduce carbon emission over time. In fact, the airline industry as a whole has committed to a 2050 net zero target. I guess the most immediate reduction and most effective reduction one can achieve is using new technology planes. Because in general, if you were to move from one technology to a newer technology plane, you actually reduce carbon emission by about 25%. That's very effective. In the longer run, SAF, which is Sustainable Aviation Fuel, has to be part of the solutions. So all those are things that we will need to also measure to see whether indeed we have succeeded in bringing about responsible, inclusive tourism.
Thank you so much. Sharlene, a few thoughts on this.
Thank you, Jessie. From a country perspective, traditionally, we measure tourism success in terms of numbers. But we all know that numbers does not tell the whole story. So for the Philippine Department of Tourism, we measure success in many ways beyond tourism arrivals. For example, one metric that we're looking at is tourism employment. How many people are employed directly by tourism, and right now it's at 6.75 million. And indirectly or induced by tourism, that number can even reach up to 16 million Filipinos employed directly by tourism. Likewise, another metric that we are looking at is spend. How much does a tourist, an international tourist or domestic tourist, spend in the destinations that we are promoting and marketing? Another measure that we're looking at is to ensure sustainability is how well the community are immersed in tourism activities, how are they being brought into the tourism value chain, and how they are able to harness not just profit, but as well as the unique opportunities that tourism can provide for them, for their family members. So my secretary always say that every person that comes to the Philippines gives opportunities, livelihood to Filipinos that are part and parcel of our tourism value chain. So that's how I think we measure success in the Philippines.
Excellent, thank you. So we heard a bit from David about increasing connectivity and a desire to go to secondary cities. And we know that many ASEAN economies are looking at moving away from overcrowded, overconcentrated hubs, encouraging visitors to go more to emerging destinations or cities. And obviously connectivity is a huge part of that, it's really vital. But it can be costly. So what makes a destination airline worthy? And what types of partnerships or incentives can be provided to really encourage that connectivity into secondary destinations?
So when an airline decides on a new route, increasing capacity or new destination, there are many different considerations. But I suppose if you distill it all down, it's really about demand. Whether the airline believes there is going to be demand on the flights that they put to the destinations. So for the more established destinations, the metros, we call them, they are, frankly, they do not need much introductions or promotions because they are known and people would like to go there for the reasons that has been established. In those cases, it's really about putting in capacity to match whatever increased demand over time because of the attraction of the destination. The more tricky one, it's really about potential demand or demand potential of a destination. And that relates more to the newer destinations, new destinations, secondary destinations. And in that case, it's about going into a destination which is not well known to tourists in general, with probably inadequate infrastructure, inadequate tourist attractions, promotions. So in those cases, from an airline perspective, we would always want to develop new destinations because that bring about new movements of people. But the airline cannot do it alone. It has to be done together with the local ecosystem. That means our National Tourism Board, that means the local suppliers of services and products, the local lodging, tour agencies and all that. In many cases, what we'll do is, after establishing that this particular destination has that potential, and having visited those destinations and sizing up with the local communities that there is receptiveness to want to have more tourists, we'll then work with them to curate packages, to curate attractions, and then have them promoted overseas. And what we'll also do is to bring in overseas, so let's say, tour agencies to the destinations to really experience it, and then from there, curate the packages for the people to go in. So those are things that we would want to do, and those are things that we cannot do it alone. To be quite frank, for an airline to actually go to a new destinations, we ourselves must be prepared that it is not going to be accretive for the first few years. So that is the investment we must be prepared to go and commit to. But we absolutely need the local ecosystem to come in together. Thank you.
I love that, I love that. And I think that really flows in nicely to what I wanted to ask Sharlene next, which is, these experiences on ground, these tour packages, they are predominantly offered by small and medium-sized businesses, right? And the strength and the structure of this MSME space can really determine how the local economy benefits from tourism and how benefits are shared. So what can destinations do to make tourism more inclusive and more accessible for these small businesses?
You're looking at potential destinations, and this is where I think that the Philippines is doing something amazing, because we have a Philippine Experience Program where we are looking at lesser known destinations, checking their capacity, looking at what kind of experiences they can offer to travelers that are new. So I'm going to invite Singapore Airlines to take on one of those Philippine Experience Programs. We're now at 11 regions in the Philippines, and the Philippines, as you all know, is composed of 7,641 islands, and we are divided into 17 regions, and those regions have a breadth and wealth of experiences that are provided for by micro, small, and medium enterprises. Incidentally, 98% of our tourism infrastructure, or the tourism enterprises that make up the Philippines, are small, micro, and medium, even nano, to that effect. And we are empowering them to create experiences, put together packages that we are putting into digital platforms as well for selling and commercialization, and ensuring that there's enough business-to-business engagement with both the national level travel agencies and tour operators and the local communities that provide them. So we are looking at our airlines as well to support these experiences, and therein lies the beautiful collaboration between private and public, wherein they bring in the flights, we provide and ensure that there are experiences worth traveling for.
Thank you so much. We have a few minutes left to tap into these insights. It went so quickly. And I want to turn to the future. ASEAN is preparing their new ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan, which will be launched next year in January. And it really will set the direction for the next 5 years of regional collaboration, which is an incredibly important thing in the tourism sector. So I'd like to hear from both of you about what opportunities do you see to deepen this collaboration, particularly to catalyze innovation, to ensure inclusion is happening, and to build sustainability into the tourism sector.
The ASEAN Tourism Sectoral Plan, as you know, we have been asked to be the lead convener of this, and we have been hosting meetings with all the ASEAN member states to put together the plan, and we are joyfully announcing that it will be released or issued or launched, if that is a proper word, on the ASEAN Tourism Forum next year in the Philippines in Cebu. So this plan really looks at digital transformation, collaboration in between states, and how we can promote ASEAN into one tourism destination. And the opportunities that align with the plan is immense, and we hope to see more unity, cooperation, and collaboration between the ASEAN member states. So I'm taking this time to also invite everyone to the Philippines next year.
Maybe I will answer in two parts. The first part is really what, at the government level, we can do to make travel within ASEAN, or once somebody enters ASEAN, to make the travel within ASEAN itself a lot more seamless, a lot more convenient. So this is the part where I think the various governments can come together and say, to facilitate that movement within ASEAN. Because ASEAN, frankly, is such a diverse region. It offers so much in terms of culture, heritage, food, and also sites. So it is for us to be able to come together and see how best to harness that. Secondly, it really is about the people involved. I do think that we do need to do more to help the local communities. In terms of, sometimes it's about capital in order for them to develop the right infrastructure, to build the right accommodations and design the right tour. Also, it's also about being able to provide them training, because service is a fine art in some sense. And you do need to train good service professionals in order to promote better tourism within the region. And at the same time, we must give them the sense of empowerment. They should not feel that they are just service provider. They should very much feel that they are part of the shaping of the whole tourism story within ASEAN. And that empowerment, I think, will motivate them to do even more.